The weight of 1,000 stars pressed upon her heart, each one a distant memory of a life she once knew. Each breath, a reminder of the throne left behind, a throne that now felt like a dream slipping through her fingers. She was Anya, no longer Princess Zilia of the Azure Moon, a name that once commanded respect and awe. Here, beneath the synthetic lights of the human palace, she was but a shadow, a mere echo of her former self, a whisper, a maid, a life of quiet servitude, far removed from the grandeur of her past. Her reflection, caught in the polished silver of a serving tray, was a stranger. The eyes that stared back were not her own. Gone were the flowing silks of her home, replaced by the drab grey uniform of the palace staff, a stark reminder of her new reality. Her once vibrant violet eyes were dulled, veiled by an air of perpetual servitude, a far cry from the lively spirit she once was. The weight of her lineage, of her people's hopes, felt heavier than the trays of delicacies she carried, each step a burden. Yet, she had chosen this path, a path of her own making. Exile rather than a forced union, a political pawn in a game of galactic dominance. She chose freedom over a gilded cage. Her father, the king, had pleaded, had raged, his voice echoing through the grand halls of their palace. But Zilia, ever headstrong, had chosen freedom, even if it meant anonymity, even if it meant walking away from everything she knew, even if it meant burying her heart beneath a mountain of lies, living a life that was not her own, in a world that would never know her true name. The human palace was a symphony of contradictions, grandiose yet suffocating, opulent yet cold. Its marble halls echoed with the whispers of diplomats and the clinking glasses of courtiers. Every corner breathed of power, of influence, a stark contrast to the simple elegance of her home planet. She moved through the throngs like a phantom, unseen, unnoticed. Her days were a blur of menial tasks, polishing silverware, changing linens, attending to the whims of those oblivious to her true lineage. Each day chipped away at her resolve, a constant reminder of all she had sacrificed. There were moments, fleeting but precious, when she would steal a moment on the balcony overlooking the palace gardens. The scent of Earth's flowers, so different from the bioluminescent flora of her own world, brought a pang of longing. It was in these stolen moments, beneath the unfamiliar constellations of Earth's sky, that she felt most alone. Prince Caius was an anomaly in the gilded cage of the court. Where others saw only power and prestige, he saw the individuals behind the titles. His gaze, sharp and intelligent, missed nothing. It was this perceptiveness that drew his attention to the quiet maid with the haunted eyes. He would often find her in the library, dusting the shelves of ancient Earth texts. He'd catch her sometimes lost in their pages, her brow furrowed in concentration. There was a thirst for knowledge in her eyes that mirrored his own. He found himself drawn to her quiet intelligence, her air of melancholic grace. Their interactions were brief, limited to polite nods and hushed greetings. Yet, with each encounter, Caius felt an inexplicable pull towards her. Her reserved nature, her obvious intelligence intrigued him. She was a puzzle he was determined to solve, unaware that the truth was a secret more profound than he could ever imagine. Anya felt the weight of his gaze, a tangible presence in the stillness of the library. She couldn't help but steal glances at the prince, her heart quickening under his scrutiny. His kindness, so rare in the world of courtly intrigue, disarmed her. In his presence she found herself yearning for a life she could never have, a life where she could shed the mask of Anya, the maid, and embrace the woman she truly was, the woman who could meet his gaze with honesty, who could engage in witty banter, who could dare to dream of a love that transcended the stars. But reality was a harsh mistress. The chasm between their worlds, between a prince and a maid, was too vast to bridge. So she kept her distance, treasuring their brief encounters, her heart a battlefield of hope and despair. Section 5. The weight of a secret. The weight of her secret pressed upon her, a physical ache that wouldn't abate. It was as if the very essence of her being was being crushed under the enormity of what she concealed. Every smile she offered the prince felt like a betrayal, a mask she wore to hide the truth. Every stolen glance a lie, a fleeting moment of connection tainted by the shadows of her deception. The closer he got, the more his kindness chipped away at her defenses, making her question the walls she had built around her heart. The more terrified she became, fearing the moment he would see through her facade. She saw the curiosity in his eyes, the silent questions that seemed to grow with each passing day, the unspoken questions that lingered on his lips, questions she feared she would one day have to answer. He deserved the truth, she knew, but the truth was a double-edged sword. The fear of rejection, of ridicule, kept her shackled to her charade. She was trapped in a web of her own making. Was there a place for an alien princess in the heart of a human prince? Sleep offered little respite, her mind a battlefield of conflicting emotions. Her dreams were haunted by visions of her home planet, a place she could never truly leave behind. Of her father's worried face, his eyes filled with concern and unspoken questions. Of the life she had left behind, a life that seemed like a distant memory yet was always present in her thoughts. The guilt gnawed at her conscience, a constant reminder of the price of her deception. Was she betraying her people by clinging to this charade, by pretending to be something she was not, by allowing herself to fall deeper into the snare of a forbidden love? The questions were endless, and the answers seemed just out of reach. Caius found himself increasingly drawn to Anya's enigmatic aura. Her silences spoke volumes, hinting at a depth he yearned to explore. He sensed her sadness, the weight she carried behind her carefully composed facade. He was determined to break through her walls, to offer her the solace she so clearly craved. He began seeking her out, engaging her in conversations about literature, art, and philosophy. Anya, despite her fear, found herself drawn into his orbit. His mind, sharp and inquisitive, challenged her own. His laughter, warm and genuine, chipped away at the ice around her heart. Yet the chasm between their worlds remained. He was the embodiment of everything she had left behind: privilege, power, and the weight of a lineage she could never share. Every stolen moment together only served to amplify the impossibility of their situation. The annual Midsummer Eve Ball was a spectacle of pomp and circumstance, a night where the elite gathered to celebrate under the shimmering chandeliers. The palace gardens glittered with fairy lights, the air thick with the scent of exotic blooms. It was a magical setting, almost otherworldly, where every corner seemed to whisper secrets of the past. Anya, hidden in the shadows of the grand ballroom, watched as Caius moved with practiced grace among the dignitaries and nobles. She had always admired his ability to blend in, to become one with the crowd while still standing out. He caught her eye across the crowded room, a flicker of recognition passing between them. It was a moment that seemed to stretch on forever, filled with unspoken words and hidden emotions. He excused himself from the group he was with and made his way towards her, a determined look in his eyes. Each step he took seemed to echo with purpose, as if he was walking towards his destiny. Anya's heart pounded in her chest, a mixture of dread and anticipation. She had been waiting for this moment, yet now that it was here, she felt unprepared and vulnerable. "Anya," he began, his voice a low murmur in the cacophony of the ballroom. The noise around them seemed to fade away, leaving just the two of them in their own private world. "I need to speak with you." His tone was serious, almost urgent, as if the weight of the world rested on this conversation. "There's something you need to know." His eyes bore into hers, conveying a sense of urgency and importance that made her heart race even faster. Before Anya could respond, the shimmering orb she always kept hidden beneath her uniform began to glow, pulsing with an urgent message from her home planet. It was a signal she had hoped never to see, a reminder of a life she had tried to leave behind. Her secret, it seemed, had a way of revealing itself. The orb's glow illuminated her face, casting shadows that mirrored the turmoil within her. The orb, activated, projected a holographic image of her father, his face etched with worry. "Zilia," he addressed her, his voice heavy with concern, "it is imperative you return. Our world needs its princess." The words hung in the air between Anya and Caius, a stark declaration of her true identity. Anya closed her eyes, bracing for Caius's rejection, his disgust. When she opened them, she found him gazing at her, not with judgment but with a newfound wonder. "Princess," he breathed, a hint of awe in his voice. "All this time you were—" He reached out, his fingers brushing against her cheek. "Your secret is safe with me," he whispered, "but you don't have to hide anymore." In that moment, Anya knew that Caius's love transcended the boundaries of worlds, of titles, of galaxies. He saw her, not just the princess, but the woman she truly was. The revelation of Anya's true identity sent shockwaves through the human court. Yet to their surprise, Caius, with unwavering conviction, defended her. He spoke of her kindness, her intelligence, her strength. He challenged the court's prejudices, their fear of the unknown. Slowly, hesitantly, acceptance began to blossom. Anya, no longer hiding, embraced her role as a bridge between their two worlds. She shared her knowledge of advanced technology, of sustainable living, of a universe far vaster than they could imagine. Theirs was a love story for the ages, a testament to the power of acceptance and understanding. Anya, the alien princess, found her home not on a distant planet, but in the heart of a human prince who loved her for the woman she truly was. Their love, defying galaxies, became a beacon of hope, a promise of a future where differences were celebrated and love knew no bounds.